All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and the final position group for this spring football breakdown is going to be the linebacker room. Now, the linebacker room was and still is right up there with one of the strongest position groups on this team. But I feel like a week or two ago, it was clearly, in my opinion, was the strongest position on the team. I don't think there was a group that had as much three-headed, really good talent as this room did. And they still have two monster starters, which we'll break down here in a bit. But before we dive in, something to know is Levani Damuni is out, and I actually had him listed as a starter plus. I liked him early in the year. He was making a lot of tackles, but towards the end of the year, that guy really came on, made a lot of open field tackles, clutch plays. I was really impressed. And from the sounds of it, it's a very serious injury, and the odds that we're seeing him anytime soon are pretty low. So that's rough. I wish the best for Levani and his family. It's a rough go, man. I'm really sorry. And I'm sorry for the team that they won't have him this year. So this is an interesting group to break down. I think that spot is really up for grabs. We're going to talk about who could be the one grabbing that spot and who's going to kind of be competing for it. Um, Before we dive in there, guys, please make sure you smash that like button. That'll help get the video out to more Utah fans. Also, comment down below, who do you think is going to be the guy filling in for Levani Damuni? Also, what do you think of the room? Do you agree with who I have as starters, projected potential starters, star players? There's definitely going to be some of those. And then also, who do I have as solid depth, deep depth? I want to know your thoughts. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, guys. I really do want to know what you guys are thinking. Also, like I mentioned in the last video, we're trying to make things more professional here, and I want to get your guys' opinions on what could do that, what would make you guys have a better experience with the show. So feel free to chime in with that. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we put out a ton of Utah youth football content. And as we get closer to the season, that'll just get more and more. And as we hit the season, it's just a wave of content. So it should be a ton of fun, guys. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's break down the Utah Utes football linebacker room heading into the spring game. All right, guys. So here is the group. To start off, we have Levani Damuni. Levani Damuni is a guy, like I mentioned in the intro, he is injured. We will not see him for a while. Rough go, guys. Seriously, a good player. I won't spend too much more time talking about him. I touched on him in the intro. Sad to see. Really good player. The next guy we got on a little brighter note is Lander Barton. Now, Lander Barton is going to be number 8 this year on the team. He was number 20 last year, but number 8 this year. Guys, he's a stud. He's a monster playmaker, just impact player. He is a star player and one of the better players on this defense and on the entire team. Heading into his junior year, we should be expecting him to have a huge season. I'm expecting a lot from Lander Barton. The next guy we've got is Sione Fotu. He's a guy that definitely got some rotation last year and definitely got some reps for the crew. I had him as solid depth a week or two ago, but now I've actually got Sione Fotu as a potential starter. He will be competing for that starting spot that is open from Levani Damuni. I'm not saying he's the perfect fit, but you got to think if things aren't working out, they're going to start rotating these linebackers around and figuring out who could be there. And Sione Fotu looked pretty decent in the reps he got last year, so I would not be shocked at all if he was the guy that grabbed that spot. Next, we got Josh Calvert, a guy that's been on the roster for a while now, and has been, a guy that really hasn't broken out, but he was a 4-star prospect, I believe, coming out, and a guy that had a ton of hype, just hasn't lived up to it yet. You want him to, he just hasn't done it yet, but he is listed as a backup on the depth chart, so I've got him as a potential starter. I think he's going to get a shot to compete for that spot. Whatever spot on the field is open now because of the Damuni injury, and whatever you want to think that means, if that means Barton switches positions inside or whatever, you just know that we're gonna see an awesome linebacker room at the end of the day. There could be some switch up on where the guys are playing. Karine Reed right here, one of the best players on this Utah team and the defense. Karine Reed is a star player. He has really come into his own. He's a guy that I'm really glad to see coming back for his senior year. big time playmaker, big time player. Again, one of the better players in this team, star player. Him and Lander are going to be cornerstones of this defense, and they're really going to need big years if we want the type of season we're all expecting. Next, we got Maroney and I've got him as deep depth. Shouldn't be expecting too much from him. Hunter Andrews, freshman, young guy. I know a lot of people like him, but still a freshman. I've got him as deep depth as well. Next up, we've got Kanai Lopes. I think that's how you say it. So Kanai Lopes is a freshman, but on multiple websites, he is listed as the backup behind Levani Damuni, which is pretty exciting. So I'm actually throwing him out there as a potential starter. I think he's part of that group of Josh Calvert, Sione Fotu, and Kanai Lopes that could be the ones that grab that position, that grab that starting spot at linebacker that's now open due to the Levani Damuni injury. Trey Reynolds, deep depth guy. Shepard Cope, deep depth. Shea O'Kelly, a guy I like the film coming out of high school. I think he's kind of borderline solid depth / deep depth, but I'm going to keep him as deep depth for now because we haven't seen it yet. But good guy and a guy I hope to see hit the field. So that's the linebacker room. In a second here, we'll talk more about how I think that third position is going to shake up. All right, guys, and definitely the number one question as we finish this video is going to be who's going to grab the spot. I think it's fair to say it's a mix of Sione Fotu, Josh Calvert, and Kanai Lopes. Now, my thought is Sione Fotu, and that could mean that they're going to switch up the room a little bit and move guys around and kind of have different guys play in different spots because we historically we've seen what's his name Levani Damuni play the middle linebacker, and I don't know if these other guys that might be filling in are going to be great middle linebackers. But when you think about a guy like Lander Barton, 6'4", 236, that's middle linebacker size. So maybe that makes more sense. You move him to the inside, have Sione Fotu, Josh Calvert, or Kanai Lopes play that outside linebacker position. I really feel good about Sione Fotu taking the spot. If it's me, if I'm going to take a wild guess right now, we'll know more in the spring game or after the spring game. But I feel good about him being the guy. Josh Calvert's got a real shot. And Kanai Lopes, I have him listed as a potential starter, and that's just off the fact that he is the next guy on the depth chart behind Levani Damuni. So is what it is there, guys. Before we get out of here, please smash that like button if you haven't already. Also, comment down below. What do you guys think is going to happen with this open position for Utah? Who grabs that starting spot from Levani Damuni? Do we see maybe a D-end move to outside linebacker and Lander Barton move inside? Who knows? I'd love to hear kind of what you guys are thinking. I know it's a lot of conversations to be had, so I want to hear them. And before we get out of here, guys, subscribe to the channel. We put out a ton of Utah Utes football content, and I want you along for the ride. I'm out of here. Go Utes.